Boston College has a problem, but it's a good problem. They have two quarterbacks that can win you a lot of games.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network, and I've been covering Boston College for over 10 years. If you want BC news, you are in the right place. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On today's show, I'm going to look at the most important game on the 2025 schedule. I'll explain why I picked that school. I'm going to look at the biggest, and we're going to look at the quarterback room. I have two topics I want to talk about. I want to talk about Dylan Lonergan versus Grayson James, which I think a lot of you guys want to know about. And I want to look at the biggest surprise in that room. We'll get into all of that on today's show. Now, in terms of the quarterback room, for the first time, and I've said this on many podcasts in recent weeks, BC has depth. They have talent from 1 to 3 on their roster, and Jacoby Robinson is still a solid quarterback as well. Now, the big question coming out of camp, the one that everyone wants to know about, is who's going to be the starter. Is it going to be Dylan Lonergan, the newcomer from Alabama, or is it going to be Grayson James, the starter who took over for Thomas Castellanos last year? And honestly, after 15 practices, it's like an election right now. I'll have to say it's too close to call. Bill O'Brien dodged the question on the final practice, and I get it. Like, you don't want to say anything. Curious to see if he actually talked to the players about this after practice when they had their exit interviews, but we don't know that yet. Now, I'll tell you what I've seen. I've seen two quarterbacks. Both of them could be starters. Grayson James, I think, has shown a lot. He comes here, in 2024, and he's a recruit that when I was recovering it, I was like, yep, Thomas Castleton is going to be a starter. Emmett Morehead's going to be the backup. This is not going to make a big difference. Now, Emmett Morehead leaves. You get Grayson James. I'm still saying, Tommy's the guy. He's going to get it. And by the end of the year, I was completely wrong. Kevin Stone of Rivals, he said, watching that Grayson James was the right quarterback, and I get what he was saying. I get what he was putting down there. James had a incredibly high QPR rating. I think he was one of the top in the country when it came to playing quality components in P4 conferences. That last month, he looked like the quarterback of the future for you. That being said, he was a bit of a game manager. He did things well, but did he do things that were super explosive? Not really. He would throw a great pass to Reed Harris or here and there, but was he an explosive quarterback? No. So what does Bill O'Brien do this offseason? He brings in Dylan Lonergan, a 4-star quarterback from Alabama, someone that the Crimson Tide just did not have plans for. They moved on to Ty Simpson and some I forget the kid from the kid from Washington that was there with their coach. They get rid of him. He comes here. Now, new offense. I was wondering if it would take him a while to learn it. I didn't give him enough credit because Dylan Lonergan this spring looked incredible. He moved this offense as efficiently at times, if not more than James at times. And he had an explosiveness that I think BC's offense is sorely lacking. So I look at this offense under these two quarterbacks, and it raises questions on where Bill O'Brien's head is at. And it's not saying either of these two are wrong. You could go with either of these quarterbacks, and you're going to hit a home run. Does he want the guy that is more established, that, you saw what you got last year, and you won 3-4 games with him? 4 games total if you include Western Kentucky. Or do you go with the guy with the higher upside? Because honestly, not a knock on James, Lonergan has a higher upside. He's a guy that he can move. He's faster. He's got a better arm, I think. Accuracy's there. Now that's the big question, but he hasn't been here long enough, so you don't know what he will look like when it comes to live game. So that's going to be a really challenging question for O'Brien. What is he going to do? And I look at where things are, and I wonder to myself, did he tell these two quarterbacks who's the leader going into summer? Because right now the transfer portal is crazy. If you've been paying attention, there's been massive names. Jalen Ott from Cal, uh, Nico from Tennessee, but that's a whole different story. But there's some big names in that portal. If someone like Grayson James knows he's not going to be the starter, will he stay at BC? We don't know that yet at the time of this recording. So I'm curious. And I am not ready to say who will be the starter. If you're, looking for an answer, I'm not there yet. I need to see more. It's, as I said, it's like an election. It's too close to count right now. I've seen a lot out of both. I liked what I saw out of Dylan Lonergan. I like what I see out of Grayson James. I'm going to be real with you on that. So I think those two have really stepped up and, given us a problem that's a good problem. Having a quarterback situation like this, we have two that could be your starter. There is nothing wrong with having that issue. And that's a credit to Bill O'Brien because you go back and you look at what BC has done for years. And it's like you have Phil Dracovic and then it drops off a cliff. You have Thomas Castellanos and it's just nothing after that. You have Chase Reddick and it's nothing after that. The school has not done a good job since Tom O'Brien recruiting quarterbacks. Bill O'Brien has changed that in 1 year. He's brought in transfers. He has brought in freshmen. He's got future players coming in, and all of them look good. That is a step in the right direction for BC. So I'm excited to see what is going to happen, but I would not expect to find out. Now, I'm recording this on Monday, April 14th. Just a heads up, I'm away this week. If you're listening to this on the 21st, and I'm recording ahead of time. So if there is a slight inaccuracy with what I said, this is AJ a week before you're listening because I actually am taking a family vacation. Woo! So not a chance to do it. I didn't want to leave for a week and not record for you guys. So I'm giving you quality content. This, as Bill Belichick said, there's no days off in this job. So in a moment, we're going to talk about the biggest surprise at the quarterback position. I'll explain who that is in just a moment. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy to use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest products info to help you get into the job right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House order offers expert support and industry leading services, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your order. That's supplyhouse.com. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black, and I have done almost 1,000 episodes of Locked On BC. I hope you guys enjoy this. This is a labor of love because I, like you, am a Boston. I went to Boston College. I love BC. I know you guys do too. So this is to really take the BC sports and make them serious. That's what I do. So I hope you guys are enjoying this. Now, with practice done, and I'm recording this early, so I'm apologizing again. I want to say this one more time. If there was transfer portal news that happened between the 14th and the 21st, I can't adjust this, but I'm talking about what we know. So, with the biggest surprise going into out of camp to me is quarterback Shaker Reisig. We're only talking about quarterbacks for this. We didn't see a lot of Shane Hannafin. Didn't really see a lot of Jacoby Robinson either. Both of those guys kind of sat on the sides as they gave a ton of reps to Shaker Reisig, and for good reason. Reisig, who comes from Oklahoma, a Utah decommit that BC flipped, was identified by the staff, by Jonathan DiBiase and Bill O'Brien. They recruited him quietly. Remember last year, if you go back a year and ask me who the quarterback was going to be, I had no idea. And they flipped him during official visit season, which was a great job by the staff. Now, 6-0 quarterback, I thought he'd come in as a freshman mid-year. As Bill O'Brien keeps saying over and over again, he's supposed to be at his prom, and he's out here playing with college kids. You don't know that watching Shaker Reisig. He does not look like a freshman at all. I've watched enough practice to know what freshmen look like and the struggles they get with understanding the tempo of the game, watching the speed of defenders, the tightness of coverage, all those issues that hit freshmen so hard don't seem to hit Shaker Reisig. His maturity, his ability to run this offense is unbelievable. I was skeptical when he got here that, given some of the times I watched or heard about games he played, he struggled last year at times in Oklahoma, but he comes here and already he looks like he belongs here. He looks like a quarterback that you can build your future around, and one in probably a year that will be challenging Dylan Lonergan for that starting job, because in a year, Grayson James is going to be gone. Whether he's the starter and he runs out of eligibility, or he gets passed over, he's probably not going to stay here. So you lose him, and the next year you have your two guys, Shaker Reisig and Dylan Lonergan, and you're watching. And I would think Lonergan would win that, but I underestimated how much Lonergan would learn an offense in 1 year. Why should I say the same thing for Reisig, right? They've got something here with this kid. It may not be this year. It may not be next year. But we will see Shaker Reisig being successful at the college level. Hopefully it's in maroon and gold. That's the thing about these transfer portal things, right? Like, you have them now and you're hoping and you're moving ahead, but can you honestly identify the players that will be here in 3 years? It's kind of hard. So I look at this quarterback room and I look at the differences between this year and last year. And the quality of players is just striking. Look at the differences in recruiting classes. And I know that Bill O'Brien still has only signed one quarterback, but he has two that have committed. We're just going to pretend that they're going to sign two. Look at the difference between Jeff Hafley's class and Bill O'Brien's. Hafley had 5 quarterbacks: Matt Reevy, Emmett Moorhead, Peter Delaportis, Jonathan Montague, Jacoby Robinson. So let's go down. Matt Reevy never played. He played for Division III? Total flameout. Nope. You had Emmett Moorhead. Played great for 2 or 3 games for BC, and then ended up at Old Dominion, and now I think is still currently sitting in the transfer portal. I don't think anyone wants him. Fail. You have Peter Delaportis. Never played it down. Is gone. Jonathan Montague moved over to wide receiver. Good positional change. That was a year that BC could not land a quarterback. That was the year that BC kept looking, and every guy that they went after ended up somewhere else. So you have him. And then you have Jacoby Robinson, who played some mop-up duty, but he didn't do anything. He hasn't done anything either. So Jeff Hafley's group was a complete wash. You look at Bill O'Brien already. You brought in Shaker Reisig. He's going to play. You're hoping DJ Bordeaux will also play, and Furian and Farrar. The big difference, when it all comes down to it, is the Hafley guys did not get major offers. They were mostly under-recruited guys. Even Jacoby Robinson was under-recruited. The Bill O'Brien ones, all these guys have major offers. All these guys had major interest from a bunch of different schools. So I look at this quarterback room, and it only looks brighter moving forward. Now, you got to see these guys play. You got to wait till but the fact that all of them have all these offers, all this interest, shows to me that there's something there. And I'm excited because you can now absorb an injury at quarterback. You can now have battles and let the best guy win, and not just have a guy like Phil Dracovic just assume he's going to be QB1. That grind, the ability to move forward, is what makes your quarterbacks even better. Now, in our final segment, let's switch it up. Let's talk about the schedule. And there's one game in particular that I think is going to be absolutely critical for Boston College to have a successful season. I'll tell you who that is and why they beat BCS to win it. We'll get into that in just a moment. There's nothing like atmosphere at an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticketing. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Save up to 60% buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. The all in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you get. Take the guess out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. And thank you all who have made Locked On BC part of your daily routine. Whether you're listening to this doing yoga, I can't imagine listening to me doing yoga, but maybe working out, maybe cleaning the house, you're driving to work. Thank you all who have made us part of your daily routine. If you are an everydayer, that's you are. I know you are. If you're an everydayer, you are the MVP of the show. You are what makes this show drive and go forward. And thank you all. And when you're done with this episode, check out Locked On Celtics with John Corrales. John is the GOAT of Locked On podcasting, and you need to check it out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, 2025, the regular season is just over 4 months away. BC opens the season against Fordham, which is not the biggest game on their schedule. Of course, they got to win that. But I wanted to do a little exercise with you all. And I want to look at a game that I think could really turn a BC season from, that was fine, to this was really good. And for this upcoming year, I look at that schedule, and one game early in the schedule sticks out to me as a game BC has to win, and it will really set them up for success. And so that game is, I don't have a drum roll app. It's the Michigan State game. Last year in 2024, Michigan State was, BC had a lot of fun wins. This was one of the most fun. This is the one where Thomas Castellanos hit Lewis Bond with just over a minute left, and he trotted in and scored the game-winning touchdown. And then on the pursuit, the next drive, Max Tucker picks off the Michigan State quarterback in the end zone to win it. It was not easy, but it was also pouring out. Remember, that was the game that it was just really, really wet. And so you had Tommy with his little fingers trying to throw the ball. It wasn't working. Aiden Childs for Michigan State, he couldn't get the ball going. And so you had all these issues, but BC ends up winning that game. And so this year, you're going on the road. Week 2 or week 3 in Ann Arbor. Not Ann Arbor, at Michigan State. Michigan State continues to build, and they're doing it a lot through the portal. But, Aiden Childs, if he can continue to grow, can make this team really explosive. So BC needs to take care of this, because if you look at what BC has for their schedule, they are front loaded with some easier schedule in games. And I look at Michigan State as like the hardest that they have. You start the season off with Fordham, then you go to Michigan State, then you play at Stanford and host to Cal. And I said on episode last week, I don't expect much from Cal or Stanford. They both look putrid. Pitt, I have no faith in Pitt, but then you get Clemson. So there's a chance, if you can beat Michigan State, that you could be 5-0 going up against Clemson at home. That would make that game special. That would really show that BC has turned the corner. But you can't limp into that game. You can't go if you want this to get a lot of attention. BC needs to win games like against Michigan State before they get to Clemson. I don't think it's impossible. I think it's a good chance that BC, if they play well, could shock the Spartans on the road. But if you lose that game, that's the other side of this. If you lose, it all of a sudden makes that season that much harder and really dampens your outlook because you have three playoff teams on your schedule. You're playing Georgia Tech. You have, even UConn's not that bad. You have all these games. Can you win them? So I look at the schedule. There's other games like obviously Syracuse, but it's that middle of the season when you're playing that game against Michigan State. It's actually early in the season, excuse me. You win that game, you could change the outlook of your season. So that was the most important game for me. Now, I also I wanted to end this episode talking about the NIL conundrum that BC college sports is in. Now, a couple weeks ago, Nico Imaliva of Tennessee, he left the Vols after they did not renegotiate a new contract and the school walked away. The report was that he was making $2 million. He wanted more money for the playoffs. They wouldn't give it to him. So he requested $4 million this year. Tennessee told him to go take a hike. So he took a hike. He's in the portal. I look at where the sports are right now, and I have said, and I will continue to die on this hill, that I think that players deserve to be paid. But I also think that what we live in now, this current reality, is that it's not working out. You can't just do free will here. You have to be able to, manage it, understand who's making what, and that so that they can't, just lose all that money. So I see this story with Nico, and I don't, I don't blame Tennessee at all, but I also don't blame Nico at all. This is just a product of the crappy world of college sports that we live in now, and it does impact BC. You guys may not know the stories, but I've heard some that NIL is definitely an impact. So, I think that the hope with this House summary is that eventually we'll get some clarity and some rulings that help solidify what's acceptable in this world and what is not. I'm curious to see, um, you know, how this all changes once the revenue sharing is in there too. So this is AJ Black. Thank you all for listening. This is your Patriots Day episode. And I appreciate each and every one of you that have made Locked On Boston College your first listen every day. And I want to make sure that you continue doing that. If you have some suggestions, DM me. Go find me on Twitter at AJDoBlack247. I have my DMs open. Most of them are just spam bots, but I do get real people in there too. So DM me if you have some thoughts. And follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Go over to YouTube and make sure you subscribe or like our podcast. Go over and recommend this podcast to your friends as well. We continue to build this podcast day at a time, one listener at a time. But you, the listeners, help us out by just telling your friends, hey, have you seen that guy, AJ? He talks a lot of BC stuff and he's got some interesting things to say. I hope you do. But we'll be back again tomorrow for another episode where we're going to look at the running backs room and the wide receivers room. I'll have some thoughts about each of those on tomorrow's show. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.